What is going on, students? It's Devlin Cassidy, aka The Scholar, and welcome to a little bit of a discussion about what I think is going to win Worlds this year in premium format. We're going to talk about all the clans, kind of where they're positioned, and all that good stuff. So please stay tuned for that. But before we get into this very, very interesting topic right now, please go check out Kingslayer Cards. Use a promo code SCHOLAR. Save 5% off on your order. And if you want any of the best TCG products in the game, go to dankritual.com and shop with them. They're fantastic. And also, Kingslayer Cards is coming up on hosting their very own 2K Invitational Tournament. Is what the entire Circuit Series is for. So if you have come out and topped, please know that the event is coming up soon, and those informational slides are up on the screen. So without further ado, let's get talking about what might win Premium for Vanguard. So I think Premiums right now is in a pretty interesting spot. The Murtoa ban list definitely freshened up some things, and there were some thoughts about maybe like what comes in the best deck. So we're kind of gonna shotgun this in terms of S is what I think really has a shot at winning. A is definitely some takes, and then B is like middle of the pack, and then anything C or below, like I really wouldn't consider in terms of taking the world. So I'm just kind of going to spitball this off the top of the dome here. I think Grand Blue has a good consideration for winning the worlds. I think Katrina's really good right now. I actually think that if you give it the respect and the time of day, Nubatama could win. Nubatama actually got first in Australia, both in BRO and I believe in BCS Sydney. And trust me, that deck's crazy. Dominate right now is coming back really strong, and even though the deck sets won't be out by then, after the deck set, I think we also need to be on an entire watch to see how Dominate will contend inside the meta. But I think that these three are really good picks right now. I also think that Highlander, in terms of winning an event, is very, very good. If you want to play some control decks, I think both control clans with Mega Colony and Link Joker are very, very solid picks. That kind of can test and gatekeep like where you kind of sit at in the meta. Also, I think though that Narukami is kind of in that, like, definitely can top. I don't know if it has the winning power for Worlds though. We are seeing now builds with like VSR and everything from Ty Smith that got top 8 over at BCS Anaheim. And trust me, like these results are very, very interesting. So I definitely think though, in terms of a big, I guess you could call like a big 7. It's not anything though, because this premium format's very diverse, but like these decks have definitely some power in terms of being able to top and being able to win entire events. And I definitely think that these decks are very well positioned to go inside premium for Worlds. I think some B-level decks, though, you can consider if you don't have access to these, is Nova Grappler. I think is kind of like your best high roll deck out of all of these. Had some tops throughout the season. Very, very solid deck. I think Angel Gize is also one of those decks that, can maybe contend. A lot of, though, were earlier in the season. I think of the more as like we play the format and establish again, you have these high risers up here up top that are still pretty strong and pretty valid. Gear Chronicle, I think, gets a lot better with that new promo that they just got for V Premium. Essentially is a history maker on steroids and is really, really good. I also believe that, you can make a run with Spike Brothers. Spike Brothers still does their tops. Spike Brothers still does play extremely well. Galley is a crazy stride. It's like that tier under Katrina in terms of raw power level for the aggro clans, and so it just does really well. I also, though, think that actually DP is kind of like in that A consideration of definitely can top. DP has always been very interesting in like decks that in formats where control decks flourish because of what's topping, and DP does not care about any of the three clans before it in terms of like Mega Colony, Link Joker, Narukami. They really just don't. They're gonna leave you at like 2 damage for the entire game and try to one-shot you with strides. That's how they're gonna do it, and it works pretty well. So I think like everything up here has I would not be surprised if it's in top cut. Like maybe toss a DI in here, like low B maybe, and maybe Jewel Knight, or maybe Jewel Knights are like some alt mile mixed with that as well. And honestly, like OTT. I think though for everything else, like I wouldn't consider Great Nature. I wouldn't consider Murakumo. I wouldn't consider Kagero. Genesis, you may have an argument, so let's like scoot everything down here. Yeah, honestly, this F tier shouldn't even be here. Aqua Force, maybe. Maybe for Pale Moon. Tachi, no. Shadows, no. And Golds maybe. There's some high roll there. But I think everything actually kind of from like Spike Brothers upward has a good chance, even though like these bottom 3 clans I think in terms of power level are still really, really good. Hence why that's like the way it is. So personally, so like visually, this is what I think. Definitely has a good position for Worlds. And now let's go talk about some data here that I can show you to break down why each of these kind of like top 8 picks are why I placed them there. So let's get into it. So over the past 3 months here, because you can put the filter on VG Paradox, also shout out Fuzzy Paradox for doing this. This is like actually insane for the community in terms of like resources and things like that. So if you haven't checked it out, this website is now just over a year old. I think like the 1-year anniversary of VG Paradox was a few weeks ago, but yeah, shout out to Fuzzy, man. He does great stuff. But essentially the past 3 months really tell like what happens for all these decks. So as you can see, since we have to omit Mill, everything I said has been topping. Like Dieliner fills it up, Katrina, then Shiranui, then Breaker, Night Rose, Gridora, Highlander, and then Narukami. I think everything down here is really good, and we can also talk about kind of like a first places and like tops like this deck has. So the reason Dieliner is that bottom is because it hasn't been able to finish. It hasn't been able to get that first place yet, and so that's why I have it the lowest. Narukami, I think, has a really good position to top. It has 5 first places in the top past 3 months, but the crazy thing is this conversion here is it has 14 top 4s. Which is wild. So it gets really, really close. So your deck has to be able to get through Naru in order to win. Bermuda has 3. Gridora has no first places in the past month. Has a few top 4s. A lot of second places actually in terms of like result numbers. Night Rose still again with no finishing power. Shiranui though with 2. This is what I find pretty interesting is that this deck was able to still grab 2 first places. And so if we want to actually go check that out, we can. And minus all the ads, you can see boom right here, the 26 for Singapore. I think that this deck is actually going to be pretty wild. I would respect this, primarily because of this card right here. I think Mizukaze is wild of a card. This card honestly should not be printed. This card should be banned, because that guard restriction is crazy. But again, it's just dominate, and the powers that deck has is sometimes a little much. So yeah, and then also got first for AO Premium, for BRO, which we can see here is like very similar, because again, the original Strider checks for Orboro, not regular Shiranui. That's like the big thing here is the fact that you get access to regular Shiranui, the good one, the Orboro one, so you get to dominate at the start of turn, then you get to dominate 2 more with Rene. You go absolutely wild. So I think honestly Shiranui, in terms of like rogue pitch options underline that like a lot of people don't prep for, you should be prepping for Nubatama when heading into Worlds. I think the deck right now is phenomenally positioned in terms of overall strength. But I mean, then again, like you have a lot more that you can do too if you want, because I mean, and there's other things too. Again, like Nova has stuff. Maidens have had tops. Gold Paladin has had tops. Shadow Paladin has had tops. Victor has had tops. It's just like when you get really low, like there's just some things you shouldn't bother or worry about necessarily having to fight through. You just should though be prepared for like some random rogue matchups. So any of like the rogue that's topped, like Victor and things like that, I would prepare for. But in terms of like in a vacuum, I'd say the big thing in your big ticket items are watch out for Narukami, test against your control matchups for Mega Colony and Chaos Breaker, and just be able to be comfortable at like low damage against DP and stuff like that. But I think like the top 8 right there, as you can see, are some of the most powerful decks right now in the game. So I would just keep on your toes. But that's going to do it. Kind of like for the premium discussion, I mean, the results speak for themselves, and you guys have access to this information like I do, and I can say those safely through playtesting to help some folks that I know that are headed to Worlds prepare this format's the real deal. But I hope you all are having a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and know that I love you all, and take care.